Hello, hello. Let's go live. Let's do this. It's been a while. Might as well try it out. We'll see how this goes. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, go live. Hopefully, we don't get too much in dropped frames. Consider turning down video settings or using a. What does this say? Who cares? It's not saying it anymore. So I think we're good. What's up, everybody? As people are coming in, I want you all to just listen to the sound of my voice and tell me if I'm loud enough, if I need to be louder. Do I need to be louder? Let me know if I'm loud enough, if you can hear me. I can't remember how to turn up everything. Sounds good? Good. Am I choppy or anything like that? I know that TikTok's trying to be a weirdo right now. Hello, 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 everybody. So, I'm Benny Boy, and I'm here to ask, who is God to you? That really can apply to a lot of different people. It's more of a discussion topic, not so much a debate. We can debate if we want. It's more of an open-ended type of thing. You know, I'm not trying to make a claim where a lot of people, my cohorts, usually do. I like to discuss and kind of find out a little bit about each other. Maybe we can get to an understanding. But for those of you that are here, if you don't mind, liking, subscribing, sharing out, doing all those good things, and let's see if we can get something going here. I think there is a description, or in the description on YouTube, a way to get on the actual call via YouTube. How to reduce? Hi. Oh, and that's my dog. I should just close the door. What's up, secular? What? Oh, do I need to pin it? All right, I'll pin it. It's Deconjunk. What is this channel all about? This channel is about deconstructing your religion, depending on what kind of religion you follow. If you even follow a religion. If you don't follow a religion, there's other things you can deconstruct. You can deconstruct bigotry. You could deconstruct racism. It's just, a lot of different things. And what deconstructing really is just looking at the things that maybe form your opinions, express who you are in different ways, your likes, your dislikes, and figuring out whether or not that's actually you. What is the issue with religion? Now, that is quite a question. What is the issue with religion? Well, John, uh, can you deconstruct the notion of determinism and how it equates to no free will? Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we can go into that. There's a book called like Living in a Determined World, I believe is the name of the book. I just bought it on Kindle. I need to read it. But pretty much, you're not gay anymore. I don't know what that means, Dilbert. And the issue with religion, back to you, John, is it has caused so much pain and suffering and just a lot of bad things. A lot of people do get a lot of good stuff from religion, but I would be able to say that you could get that good stuff from many other places. Let me get on the pin here. I gotta find my tiny URL. For those who want to join from YouTube, I think you just have to type in tinyurl.com slash decon junc, like decon junk. I'm gonna put it up and then I'll pin it. So yeah, that pinned little URL right there will get you on the call for free. There's no like weird stuff about it. It's just uses this plugin called Video Ninja that uses you can decide whether or not you want your camera on. You can decide when your mic turns on or off. Do I believe that Jesus is God? No. I am not sure that Jesus is actually like anything. I'm not even sure if he was a memory, like he's more of a folk hero. Let's see. Hey, Gigawatts. Good to see you as always. It's so good to see you, buddy. I see you've been going live, living your best life, and I'm so happy about that. God to me is an almighty and completely unknown, as he's only talked to a few men, such as Noah, Abraham, and Moses. Afterward, he completely vanished to mankind when he was expanding the firmament in Sheol. Okay. Now, why would God only speak to those people and then, like, go silent? That's my question. So, if you are willing to answer that question and tell me who God is to you by either using that URL that I put up, it's www.tinyurl.com/deconjunk. That's JUNC, DECONJUNC. It will get you on if you are using YouTube. I am also on TikTok, and you can get on just the normal way with TikTok, I believe. We'll see. My multi-guest sometimes does not work if I haven't gone live in like months, which is where I'm at. Let's see. There should be... Okay. Hold on. I got a guest coming in. Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, you froze for me. I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. The computer was being a little weird there. I'm lining you up on a few things. I'm also trying to do like 60 frames per second. And I don't think it's like good enough, or like my computer's good enough for that. How are you?
Uh, Good. How are you?
Better. It's a better week compared to last week.
Good.
Last week was so hectic for me. It was bad.
Yeah,
It was bad.
it was
Uh
sounding like that.
yeah, it's just stressful and sad, and
Oh, yeah.
having to like be the caretaker of your parent when you're just not ready for it yet. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
But we got through it.
Yeah.
I think, I also was feeling bad because I went on vacation for a bit and I hadn't seen my mom. And so when I did see her, her like spirits lifted up like completely, even though I don't believe in spirits.
Aw.
But her mood,
Yeah.
like her
Yeah.
eyes, you could see that she was like much more happier on the inside. Where I think she was having a
Aw.
tough time before then.
Yeah. That's hard. Well, I know you said that she's seeming to be, her spirits are lifting a bit. So that is good because that is
Mm-hmm.
so important.
Yeah,
But
I mean, like especially when you're trying to like fight something, and I don't know, it's kind of unknown. So, but we're it looks like she's improving. So really,
mhm.
we're just gonna go through with it. Put our faith in science, and
Right.
in the process.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
else can you do, really?
Well, I mean, you could pray, I guess.
Exactly. What can you really do? you
Yeah,
know?
praying ain't gonna do shit.
No,
Praying ain't gonna do shit. It didn't do shit for
unfortunately.
me. It didn't do shit for Jesus. It didn't do shit for
Yeah.
anything.
But are her doctors optimistic at least?
Yeah. Well, there's like They're also young, and it's like a research hospital, so they're
Oh.
cautious. They're not
Mm-hmm.
very as experienced to where they're like, "Oh yeah, I've seen this. This is definitely what's going to happen." They
Mm-hmm.
want to be. Am I quiet, Konami? Hold on. Let me see if I can turn my stuff up over on that end.
Yeah. I did pop in for a second to get the link, and I did notice it was a bit quiet.
How about now, Konami? Konami, can you
Sup,
hear
Relic?
me? Who did you say hit to?
Relic?
Oh, Relic. Yeah. Okay, he said better. Better. That's good. Let me know if it's still too like low. Hoping to get a guest or two. What's the stats? The sage for? There's all these weird like settings where you can like do, I don't know, talent shows or something, or it's like The Voice where people can come up and like sing for a second.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see those talent show lives all the time.
I don't. I don't know.
Honestly, the pots aren't too bad for those, and then the dare ones, the pots get pretty big.
Really? What's
Mm-hmm.
they have to like do like truth or dare?
No, it's like people dare you to do the most, like lick your toilet bowl, brush your teeth with your toilet scrubber, shave your head, like the craziest stuff. But it's like a $2,000 pot. So I mean, it's like some people it's worth it. To me, never in a million years. But
No. I
no.
like I can do certain things, but not like when it comes to eating stuff. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like if they were like, oh, lay in a like a tub of snakes that aren't venomous, sure, I would
Right.
do that.
I have a weak stomach, so I couldn't be doing that stuff either. But to each their
Mm-hmm.
own, I guess. Make your money how you can.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
But
Okay,
I just wanted to do a testing for you.
no, I appreciate you. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
coming up to here, and it's always so good to talk
Yeah.
to you. And thank you for everything you
Yeah.
do.
Samesies. Oh, thank you, Benny. All
You're welcome.
right. Kick me out of here.
You're out of here. Disconnect. That was Ty here, who is amazing. Let me see. Maybe I can change my video settings while I'm live. Nope, I can't. Shite. Could try and drop it to. Whoa. There I am. It like lost me for a second. This might actually work better. All right, everybody. Please tap that screen. I know there's only a few people here on TikTok. If you're here on YouTube, share the live out. Hit the thumbs up. Let's get some stuff going. You can actually talk to me and tell me who the heck is God to you, because God is different to just about everybody else. I think God is almost unique to every single person. I doubt that there's more than one person that has the same exact like image and whatever of God like as the other. Like it's just impossible to me. Like I don't even think two people have the same like concept of Santa Claus. So just who is God to you is my question, because I think God is not real, right? So therefore, God is just a creation within our heads. I'm not a Scientologist, Hannibal. Not a Scientologist. I do not know who the heck a Xenu is, or Thetans. I don't know what Thetans are. I am a full blown agnostic atheist, the type, but I never was Christian. Stop adding to you. That makes you sound like a Scientologist. To say to you, I'm so what? So demons, did we make them up in our head too? Yes, time marches on. Demons are also a construct in your head. That's a good question. Like I would even be willing to ask you, who are demons to you? What are demons to you? Because people have lots of different opinions on what the freak a demon is. Some people, demons are just shadows, voices, hallucinations. Others are very corporeal, real. Some are just like bad, or what they consider, like bad feelings or internalized, intrusive thoughts. They are considered, something in other people that you just don't care for, like maybe like schmomosexuality. You might say that that's a demon, but really it's just you find it uncomfortable. Thanks, Tabstar, but God ain't blessing nothing. But I will keep it up, brother. If one wants to sink God, just look up and see what's completely blinded to those who think it's fake. When planes mingle during this season and year. Huh? Let's look up. God? I don't see God. Or I'm not hearing God. I'm not experiencing God. Please, for the love of this fake God, I would love it if somebody would come up and have a chat with me. There should be like a little yellow and blue person in the bottom part of the corner here. If you're on TikTok, if you are on YouTube, there is a URL pinned to the chat. Sure, Hannibal, you can call in. It's tinyurl.com/deconjunk. That's DECONJUNC. And we should be able to get you on to both lives that I'm streaming at the moment here. Hey, Charlie. It's going. It's going better than it has been in a few, like, last couple of weeks. Maybe even months. That's better than Tiny Junk URL. Hey, it's not about the size that matters, okay? It's how you use it. And that's coming straight from the heart. Oh, jeez. I'm just going to disable the video on my Video Ninja, which is the source that I use for people to call in. Yeah, thanks, Charlie. It is on the up and up. Hopefully I can start going live more. I want to go live more. Mezzo went on a vacation or something happened where he hasn't gone live. So I wanted to get some, action going, and I figured why not? Let's see what kind of craziness is going on over in YouTube. Mezzo isn't missing, but he isn't going live. Bro, did you read Bible? Yes. I read Bible. I never believed in it as a axiomatic thing though. So that's a little bit of a difference between me and a lot of people, is that I've always read it not believing a word in it. But a lot of people, when they first read the Bible, they take it as truth. So we might have a little bit of a difference of understanding. But yes, I've read Bible, bro. Also, Nightbot is kind of being a little, just give me a single Just give me a single argument and I will have this Benny boy denouncing his faith in Christ wholeheartedly. Wait, what? Denouncing my faith in Christ? I already denounced. I don't have a faith in Christ. Murder Cat, you win already. Okay, I'm here to test, friend, to all of the craft. Oh, is somebody on? Let's see here. Solo talk, add to scene 1. Hold on, buddy. Let me make sure I got... There we go. Oh, let me see if I can hear you. Can you speak up?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. TikTok,
awesome, man.
TikTok, can you hear Mr. Hannibal?
That's me.
Well, while we're waiting for that, what's your age, Mr. Hannibal? And do you believe in God? Are you a Christian?
Yes, I'm a Christian. I'm 29 years old. And I like to have these conversations at the basis that, I obviously don't have all the answers, and I don't think that you do either. So
Right.
maybe we can spend a few minutes and explore something and maybe come to a conclusion together on, you know, I think the
I like that
basis
sound.
of your video that I just clicked on and watched was just God doesn't exist. And so where I jumped in, it was you were saying that each person kind of has their own definition of God or their own ideology on who God is exactly. And
Right.
I fully agree with that. So I think if that's okay with you, that would be a great part for us to kind of dissect and start right there.
Yeah, I actually really like that. It's not something you ever hear really like discussed too much. So I guess just kind of. Oh, you're super loud. Hold on. Let me see if I can turn you down on my end.
Yep, no worries. I don't want to lose the video. I'm like, I don't know if I can open up other tabs or anything because I'm on my phone. So
Yeah, that's a good question. How about now, guys? Is it too loud still? Let me know. I can turn it way down. But let's get back into this talking here. So, what I mean by that is kind of like the archetypical god, or like the human kind of image of what, like, how people have like the ego, the super ego, and the id. One of them is how you are like kind of perceived by other people.
yeah,
And oh, sorry,
and
you can't be a dragon like completely on screen. Just to let you know, if you know what I mean by being a dragon.
yeah,
Uh,
no worries.
but so like that's kind of my like basis here. I think that, like I said, with Santa Claus, I think that people have a different image of what Santa Claus is when they think of Santa Claus. Like if you asked anybody just, in their head, what does Santa Claus look like to you? Some people might say like, oh, he's, the Coca-Cola Santa Claus. He's very much, like
Yeah,
human,
I
plump, that kind of thing. So go on. Yeah. So that's kind of
um
my point.
I totally get what you're getting at, and I think Santa Claus is probably a good example because Santa Claus a fictitious character. So the question would be, if Santa Claus exists, who is he, and does our definition or our way that we identify him mean anything? Does it change anything at all? I don't think it would, right? So like me and you both exist. We are non-fictitious characters. I'm probably looked at differently by anybody different, depending on who you ask. They'd give you a different, you know, character summarization of who I am, and vice versa to you.
Right.
So our opinions really don't matter. I want to stay more focused on what is not subjective, but what could be essentially objective, right? So the
Okay.
objective truth of what God is. So the claim to start with would be God does not exist. Now, that is, to me, probably one of the boldest truth claims, depending, especially if we cannot give a proper definition of who God is. If we cannot identify who or what that thing is that we claim does not exist, I don't think that we should be able to claim that it does not exist.
Okay. I could see where like the wording of that statement or claim is a little, uh, especially with the context of, if we can't really define exactly what like an objective anything is, I guess us being humans, and having our, I guess, filters that we see things through, to say that this thing I can't describe doesn't exist, is a little nonsensical when it comes
Exactly.
to what other people
Um,
think. But at the same time, does something that you can't describe exist?
well, and this is the issue. Is this is really where it comes into circular reasoning.
Right.
So I have things that I could provide as evidence that would lead me to believe that God does exist, but most of it would come from the Bible. So we could dismiss that as circular reasoning because if you don't believe in God, you wouldn't believe the Bible, right? So I'm trying to take statements and claims from the past, which is what we have in the text, and try and make my own critical theory or decision on what the validity of those claims are.
Okay.
So
Before we get
the
into that, though. I would just like to kind of set a grounding, I guess, for like, is this, so you are saying that you have evidence for Yahweh or like or Jesus
For
or
both.
both,
Yeah.
like the Trinitarian Christian God?
Again, how am I supposed to know, man? We do have a Christian belief in the Holy Trinity,
Right.
and that still is extremely confusing to me. There's people that'll tell you that's pretty black and white. You got the Son, the Father, the Holy Spirit, right?
That's all it
But
is. 3 is 1.
the Son is the Father, but he's also separate. So how am I supposed to explain that? I have no idea, dude. But I just like to take the statements that Jesus claimed to be the Messiah. He claimed to be God.
Okay.
Okay, so I will take Jesus' claim because I have faith and I believe in that is Jesus' claim, the truth. I believe he was not lying. So that to me is my belief that there is we can call it a Trinity, separate but the same. I don't know how it works. I'm not going to claim to.
Right. I don't think Jesus flat out says the Trinity. I think he says some things like, you cannot speak to the Father except through me. I think there's another one where in John, that's kind of where the Trinitarian like idea comes from. But I don't think like that anywhere it says like I am, thrice in one. I am the Holy Spirit, Yahweh, the Jewish
awesome, man.
God.
I really appreciate it because this is ultimately the nitty gritty. I don't think many people have many issues with God. Jesus is the one that people have problems with. So I like that we're going straight there. Sure. Now I too have kind of had these questions on us because God said that thou shalt not have any other gods before me, and then here comes this guy named Jesus. It's like, okay, well, if we're all claiming that he's God, that is absolutely a deity before God himself, the Father. So we better make sure that
making my arguments for me here.
Okay. So this is where we have to come into the Bible. And I have a lot more research that I need to do, but this is just the bits and pieces that I've picked up so far, is Jesus absolutely did claim to be God. There's no denying that. And I've done my research on it. So the first one is when he's talking to Peter, he asks them, he says, "Who do you think I am?" And Peter says, "You are the Christ," which is Greek for Messiah. So then we go back to the Old Testament, and there are claims on who the Messiah is. It's God incarnate. God gave his one and only Son, became man, and that is the Messiah. That is God. So that was Jesus' first claim, is that he accepted the title of the Messiah from Peter. So Jesus' second claim, this is the one that's more interesting to me, because I struggled with this one quite a bit, and it blew my mind when I figured it out. I can't remember the chapter or the verse. You might have to look this up because I'm on my phone and I don't want to lose the tab.
Yeah, I can actually. But, I think I can even have it pop up or something. I don't
know. That would be awesome. So in the New Testament, I believe it's John chapter 10. Don't quote me on that. He is speaking with the Pharisees, and at one point he says, "I and the Father are one." And the Pharisees considered this. Yep. So the Pharisees considered it blasphemy. And they were getting ready to stone him. They were getting ready to kill him for blasphemy on the spot right there. And he kind of rolled it back. And he's like, "Did I not say that we are all gods?" And so that part to me really threw me for a loop. And I think that's where a lot of people with like this Scientology belief, or this, subjective idea that God is us, we're all gods, is where this comes from, is this statement that Jesus made. And what he's referring to is the Old Testament in Psalms chapter 82. So this 82? Really took me for a loop. Yeah. Okay, so this really took me for a loop, right? He's saying, "I and the Father are one." He's basically claiming to be God right there. That is his blasphemy, and the Pharisees acknowledge this. There was no confusion. And then he rolled it back and he's like, "We're all gods, actually. That's what I said." So I'm like, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what this means. And so I'm like going back to the old definitions of God, and it's basically just deities, monotheistic or sometimes non-monotheistic deities is what Greek mythology refers to with their gods. So
Right.
if
Just kind of like there's even demigods, or like what even classifies like a god from a demigod? I guess
yeah,
invulnerability or some sort of
so
superhuman trait.
again, I don't want to get into our ideas on who
Right, right,
God
right,
on
right,
what God is, but we'll just go off the standards of the time, which was the Greek uh,
right.
language,
Okay,
and
so we got
they were talking about
Jesus.
deity.
Yeah, we got Jesus, and he's saying that I am the God, and then he does kind of come it back, and then he says,
Yes,
"What is it? We are not
it
stoning
said
you
that.
for any good, but for blasphemy, because you are a mere man, claim to be God." Jesus answered them, "It is not written into your law." This is John 10:30, like 1 through
That
keep.
sounds right.
So I'm on 34. Jesus answered them, "It is not written into your law, and I have said, you are gods," in quotation marks.
Yep. Okay. So he's referring to Psalms chapter 82, verse 6. So I'll let you read it because I can't pull it up. If you wouldn't mind going to Psalms chapter 82 and just reading like the first 10 verses or so. Because this is the part that just like, I don't know, man. It's circular reasoning because it's all in the Bible, but this is the part that blew my mind. So,
Okay, Psalms 82:6. 82, it's God's rule is the name of the psalm. I'll read the whole psalm. So 82, God takes his hand in the great meeting of his people. He judges among the rulers. Verse 2, how long will you rulers be wrong in how you judge? How long will you show favor to the sinful? Do the right thing for the weak and those without a father. Stand up for the rights of those who are suffering and in need. Save the weak and those in need. Set them free from the hand of the sinful. They know nothing. They understand nothing. They walk around in the dark. All that the earth is built upon is shaking. I said, quote, you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High. And then number 7, but you will die like men and fall like one of the princes. Rise up, O God. Say who is guilty or not guilty upon the earth, for all nations belong to you. That's
mhm,
that's the whole psalm.
that's it. Okay. I'll try and like simplify this as much as possible because that psalm is something that I think people can study for an entire lifetime and still not fully dissect. But what it starts with is, the false judges, and that is one of a few distinct authorities of God. So one of them would be the ability to judge. The second one would be the ability to receive worship, and the third one is the ability to forgive sins or heal. Jesus proclaimed all three of those authorities. So this psalm is referring to the ability to judge, right? It's saying you are all gods. You all have the ability to judge in a certain way, but you will all die like mortal men. This was the Psalms written some 200 or so years before Jesus was even born. Um, and it finishes by saying, rise up, O God. So when he says you are all gods, that's a lower capital G. He's not calling us gods. He's referring to our authority to judge. He's saying, and we could read it back, but it's basically saying that we're somewhat shit judges for that matter.
Yeah.
And then he says, rise up, O God, capital G, judge the earth. So he's only talking about one person. This was 200 years before he was even born when he wrote that psalm. He was talking about Jesus and he called him God. I mean, that just blew my mind. Is like I stirred on that too. It's like, are we all gods? Do we all have this some type of like, were we getting the message from Jesus wrong? Was he basically saying that we could all be him? That's absolutely not the case. He was saying that we all have some type of spiritual authority, but ultimately he is the capital G.
I think like in ways the way that I read it, just from what I know, also and just like the way I've understood the Old Testament and the New Testament, uh, this is an interesting one. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody bring up Psalm 82 in like all of the years that I've watched like debates on this subject, or like just deep dives into like different things like prophecies for Jesus kind of things. The first thing is that this is a psalm, So like this isn't a prophecy, right? But are you really even saying this is a prophecy? Is this more of like a
Oh, I really think that's a prophecy. Yeah, no, I definitely do. I think he's talking about Jesus. And that was, I mean, these are different people writing different scriptures centuries apart, lifetimes apart. And the way that was worded, I mean, it couldn't be anybody else.
well, I mean, okay, so there's the Jewish like term, El Elyon, for like Most High, and in that psalm it does mention Most High. Let me see if I can get this. Actually, let's see if I can bring it up on my screen on the YouTube. And the way that I understood that the Most High was actually like part of this kind of pantheon of gods, that was the one that kind of gave Israel to Yahweh. I think they mentioned that pretty early on in the Bible, that Yahweh is given Israel, whereas other gods are giving other territories, if you will.
Hmm.
So I think this is kind of in reference to that person, because it is saying you are all sons of the Most High, you are gods. So, but you will die like men and fall like one of the princes. They walk around in all the dark. All the earth is built upon his shaking. They know nothing. They understand nothing.
Hmm.
So, to me, I mean, like, it's not really a prophecy, like in the Deuteronomic sense, which is what I usually use as like a test for a prophecy. Because, I mean, I guess the you will die like men, but it's not very specific, if you ask me. I don't see where it's
It
saying.
where what the prophetic part for me is that very part where you will die like men, and then the very next passage or the very next verse is rise up, O God. So it's referring to us as God, some type of spiritual authority, some type of hierarchy established, and the fact that we are all going to die like mortal men. So we are not God. And then it ends it with rise up, O God. Like I just don't know how that could be, mistaken for him talking about Jesus who would die and will rise up and judge the earth. I mean, that's Jesus.
Let me see here. Yeah, I'm just pulling up the Hebrew, and I'm also trying to like get this to display.
Yeah. But no, I get it with the deities and stuff. The book of Isaiah, he tells people, choose this day who you will worship, the gods of your land, the gods of your ancestors. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So, when it refers to other deities or some type of pantheon of gods, I think it's referring to an authority instead of an actual.
Right.
Um,
And the term's kind of weird, anyways. It's like a plural. It's like a title, and it could mean like a god or multiple gods, or just the title, the Most High. Um,
yes.
Let me see here. Display capture. I need that one. Window capture. There we go. And I want the Psalms one up. Okay. Can I show it? There. I can kind of show it. So I have the Hebrew up, on the Arise, O God, Judge of Earth, for all the nations are your possession. And I just wanted to see like what it said. Have you ever used Safaria?
No, no, I haven't.
Safari is really cool. So it's basically the JPS, the Jewish Study Bible. And since it's Psalms, like I would go with what the Hebrew says.
Yeah.
But it does say, "Arise, O God, judge the earth, for all the nations are your possession." And I do see where it says like this capital G, but let's read it through on this one just to see like kind of a different reading of it. A psalm of Asaph, and I'm not sure, is Asaph a character?
I couldn't tell you, man. I promise.
So
I won't ever
Asaph
claim to have answers that I don't.
Asaph was a prominent Levite musician, a songwriter, and seer in the Old Biblical Old Testament who served King David which the Psalms are, like I think written mostly by King David or in reference to King David.
Mm-hmm.
So, a psalm of Asaph. God stands in the divine assembly. Among the divine beings, he pronounces judgment. These divine beings could be angels. They don't have to be necessarily higher than or equal to.
Or us.
But yeah, just more than human is what I'm taking from divine. Let's see. How long will you judge perversely, showing favor to the wicked? Salah. Let's see. Salah. What is it? Justify. No, hold on. Oh, Rashi doesn't have anything to say there. Let's see. Rashi says, God stands in the congregation of God to see whether or not they, the judges, judge fairly, and you, judges, how long you will judge unjustly. So, and God stands in the divine assembly, these judges, among the divine beings, he pronounces judgment. How long will you judge perversely, showing no favor to the wicked? Salah. Judge the wretched and the orphan, vindicate the lowly and the poor, rescue the wretched and the needy, save them from the hand of the wicked. They neither know nor understand. They go about in darkness. I have taken you for beings, sons of the Most High, all of you. I have taken you for divine beings, sons of the Most High, all of you. But
Yep.
you shall die as men do.
Exactly. So he stands in the court judging other divine beings. He takes us for divine beings. He's judging us. That's the Most High.
He's speaking. I believe he's speaking to like the judges, like the Grand Council, the Divine Council, which is kind of like that collective, the Elohim, and that's who he is like speaking to when he's dividing out the portions, like the countries, like Israel. So I don't think he's talking to us. I don't think like humans were even supposed to like read that.
Gotcha. That yeah, I guess the way it's reading to me is it sounds like he's passing judgment to divine beings.
Right. Yeah. Like,
But
I guess
but
if
not
you're
right.
including humans as divine beings, I guess I could see where that like could be taken in. But it's kind of weird because a distinction here is made that you shall die as men do. So now men aren't divine beings. They are, fallen as Adam fell once he, did the bad deed.
Right.
Like surely you shall die, and fall like any prince. It says this for it's a midrash, so I take it with a grain of salt. As the first who died, so will fall. The midrash Agadah, as one of the celestial princes, for it is said, the Lord will visit punishment upon the host of heaven on high. I don't know what any of that does for this prince. I would say fall like any prince is just like a saying to me. The way it comes off to me is, like as all princes do, as all humans do, they fall.
So the first impressions that I got, and this was, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be the first impressions, but after just a little bit of thought, the impressions that I got on that passage was establishing some type of divine authority and acknowledging that we have it, that we have some type of divine authority, right? Which it says we are gods. But in the Hebrew writing, it says we are divine beings, which to me, that makes much more sense. And that actually was kind of what I was saying before I even knew that, was it was acknowledging not our godship, but our authority spiritually. Because it follows it up. It ends with, but you will die like men. So he's not calling us some type of eternal being or not, I shouldn't say non-eternal, but he's not calling us gods. He's saying we have authority there. And then it ends it with a capital G, rise up, judge the earth. So it's distinguishing us from whoever that capital G is as divine authorities. And I think that's kind of where a lot of other deities fall in line as well. Like back in the very beginning, with Abraham and other tribes of that time were worshiping Baal. They were worshiping other deities, or demons.
Interesting.
So they're
like, would you consider like Baal to be like a judge?
yeah. So perhaps not in a good judge, perhaps not even a judge with authority, but perhaps authority over lesser things. There is a hierarchy there. So I don't want to quote this, but I think at some point somewhere in the Bible it says that we will judge angels. I don't quote me on that because I could be way off base with that, but
Well, I mean, they do get judged. I mean, like, that's what happens. Well, do the angels really get judged after? I mean, the flood happens, but is that really a judgment on the angels? I guess the angels no longer have the humans to fool around with or something.
well,
But
I
I'm just
don't
trying
know.
to. Either way, like I'm just trying to think of a time where an angel gets judged. There's like the whole Luciferian story. I don't believe that that's anywhere to be found in the Bible.
Oh, it is. Well, I mean, so
Unless you're
that
including like New Testament, but I'm saying like as a
no, I would say the very beginning of the Bible when it talks about God's first creation. I don't want to like gaslight you or anything, but do you know what
no
God's first creation was according to the Bible?
God's
Uh,
first creation. Hold on, I'm just trying to think out of like
before the beginning.
before the
Uh,
beginning.
well, if there was a concept of time before the beginning, there was a creation of gods, and the Bible refers to it in the book of Genesis. I'll
There's
just
the
shorten it
bearish
to you.
like the Hebrew is like in the beginning of creating. I believe
The,
is how
God's
it's
first
written.
creation.
Okay,
God's first creation was the serpent, which was cunning above the rest.
is that how that goes? What part of Genesis is that in? Let's see.
Could be in the first chapter. Pull up my other phone.
So you're saying like let there be light and there was light because he created heaven and earth when he began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void with darkness over the surface, the God sweeping over the water, and the water, from how I understand it, is more of like a reference to like Tiamat, an older like
Genesis.
primordial like chaos. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and there was light, and it was good. God separated the light, blah blah blah. Said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of that water," and made it separate the water from the water. And then we got the firmament, and we got like atmosphere, I guess, or perhaps in a Christian sense, like heaven, and then just like the skies. God made the expanse.
No,
Yeah, go on.
one flesh, the Hebrew.
Are you
I'm
like saying
trying to
like the
find it
first
right
like
now.
animal or like
No,
there's
I'm
fruit?
almost positive that when it refers to the serpent in Genesis, he calls it God's first creation. Um,
Okay, so you're saying
I'm
like
just trying to,
the
yeah, I'm
serpent.
trying to find the verse. I'm trying to find the verse where it starts to mention the serpent, and it starts it in chapter 3, but I think there was mention of it before, where it says that the serpent who God first created was more cunning than the rest. Um,
I do remember the cunning part. Let me see. Waters, other creatures, seas. Where is it? Chat. Do you know where the serpent first comes into the? Because in chapter 2 is should be like the story of man and woman. Human from the soils, hummus, Pishon, I think, yeah, east of Ashur, Garden of Eden, created the woman. Here we go. Now the serpent was the shrewdest of all beasts. Okay, two of them were naked, the human and his wife. They felt no shame. Now the serpent, it's like part 3 just kind of goes into, now the serpent was the shrewdest of all the beasts. Was the serpent mentioned any time before that?
that's what I was trying to figure out because I could have sworn that it mentioned the serpent in this passage as a predecessor of the creation. I'm almost positive, and I'm trying to find the translations, but I'm not. I'm okay with being wrong on this. But
No, yeah. I mean, still, it's an interesting. Like, keep going. Like, I don't.
um,
I know I'm like fact checking you, and I don't mean it to
oh,
be
that's
like
fine.
disqualifying. I think you actually have an interesting take on a lot of this, so I want to keep hearing what you got.
So, anyways, I guess the whole Satan being right, where we kind of have this saying is, does Satan even exist? And I think we could find first evidence of Satan here when it's mentioning the serpent. So, this is very early on in the Bible. This is right around this is Adam and Eve, the creations, and we have this serpent in the garden.
Now, the
One of
serpent was judged. I would say that cursed, like even. So I mean, I guess to just like bring it back further to what we were talking about with divine beings being judged. Uh, so I'm not sure. Like I understand. Like I don't want to get into the whole like is Satan the thing, because like I could reverse that and say, like in the Hebrew, like Asatan, it can also just mean like the accuser,
yeah,
or
and
kind of like this darker. Um,
that's awesome because Satan does have many titles, and one of Jesus' titles for Satan was the abomination of desolation. So Jesus also says that the battle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and darkness. So the wording in that is also, I think, super important because it establishes principalities amongst darkness, a hierarchy thereof. So when we think of a hierarchy, we think of something at the top. If there's a hierarchy of principalities in darkness, there's a leader at the top, and it's identifiable. It's not just a vague term. There's something there. So those are the words of Jesus, right? Um,
yeah. I don't know how I want to word this, because you and I probably have you been like religious your whole life?
yeah, but I mean, anyone who's Christian or Muslim or grows up in a religious household will say that. I think there's a point of faith and understanding that kind of at some point in somebody's life intersects, and that is the age of accountability. And so I think I'm beyond that at this point. But
Okay.
yes, I have been religious my entire life. Um,
Well, and the reason why I asked that is because like uh, I don't think I've ever really. I guess if I were to say like religious to something, would maybe at a very young age, like having just complete like faith in something, would have been just like my mother, or like science. That would probably be the closest thing, before I was like, all right, I'm looking into everything I can to like completely cohere what this even means. So when I
yeah,
think of like the Christian religion, when I first went to, it was a Catholic church. When I was brought in, it looked like theater to me. It looked like
mm,
something completely alien to what I had known or like continue to know. It
yeah.
looked
Well,
it just like so like my understanding of like the mystic or like what have you. I don't think like really conceives or like it just doesn't read it like a lot of other people do. That being said, like so when I think of Jesus talking, I go to the scholars when it comes to like how this was written and kind of how to place it in time. And the way that I've always heard it now from these scholars, from at least most of them, is that, like Jesus at the very most was, like an Essene apocalyptic priest, probably from the like first century, uh, perhaps named Yeshua. Uh, if anything, maybe a group of priests that thought that the apocalypse was on like the next, kind of turn of like a
yeah,
couple months, and so he kind of got big, because he had this, hey, the world's gonna end, and the world did seem like it was ending around then. I don't know if you know the context of like the first century, and I'm gonna kind of change
Oh
this.
yeah, Rome pretty much falling apart, the volcanoes and stuff.
Well, that and like, oh yeah, the volcanoes in Italy. There's
Well, the one that really gets me about the world falling apart is the Temple of Jerusalem getting destroyed. Some
oh
70 years after Jesus was crucified, the Temple of Jerusalem was torn down. Um,
yeah, that one is a weird one too, kind of. I mean, it depends on when these like words are written down, also. But like,
yeah,
if you to take it as fact, and I could even like make that concession, like, okay, like let's say that that is true, like in a world that, in my world, that like magic doesn't like exist, or like something unexplainable like that, like a prophecy wouldn't exist. Uh, to call the 70 years, like what is that from? I know that's from one of the prophecies, but either way,
man, there's so much. I wish I had all the answers for
it,
you, but
it
I
could
don't.
be. I
No.
mean, like it could always be ruled out as just like a really good guess, right? Like because
Well,
the
so we know that it was within the life, right? Because the thing about it is we have Jesus apostles, and we have Roman literature referring to Jesus. We have historical texts of Jesus's the events that transpired near the end of his life. So we know about Jesus, and we know about the time thereof. And we know about his apostles and the books that they wrote: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Mhm.
Revelations, even some odd 40 years after Jesus was crucified. So these men that were there when Jesus was crucified were still alive when they wrote those books. And Paul, the apostle Paul, who was not a follower of Jesus
Right,
until
right.
after he died, wrote letters to all these churches in his lifetime. So, right, so when we come to the time frame on when these books were written, we know they were within the latter half of those men's lives, which was after they were crucified. So if they were 30 years old or around the same age as Jesus when he died, they didn't live to be 90 years old back then. So it was written within probably 30 years of Jesus being crucified.
There's a lot to unpack with that. Okay, so when I'm looking at, is it Mark 24? Does that sound like? Because that's what AI is trying to tell me. The prophecy is in Mark 24, 1 through 3. So that's what I wanted to get to. Because there's many like ways that I could like take this as like why I don't believe it. One of them being like I just don't believe that Jesus was a fulfillment of any of the prophecies, nor was necessary as a forgiveness of sin, like as a sin sacrifice. But
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Um,
I
well,
want to get
Jesus
into
definitely
this specific,
forgave
like,
sin.
what's that?
Jesus definitely he either forgave sin or he claimed to have the authority to forgive sin. Those were one of his blasphemies that the Pharisees wanted him killed for,
So would
because
you
that was
say there's a verse that says that like blood is only necessary for sin? I think like by Paul, like that the blood of Jesus was necessary for like the forgiveness of sin.
yeah. And the Old Testament refers to that in the sacrifices. You sacrifice a sheep because it's what's within the blood that the creature is made of, or something along the lines of that. So it is the blood. There was a distinction in the Old Testament, which was the Old Covenant, and the New Testament, which was the New Covenant, that the sacrifice was necessary, and it is in the blood of which the creature exists.
But then in Leviticus, though, when they're talking about sacrifices, now this is kind of we're kind of jumping down the logic here pretty quick,
Yeah, no,
but
that's fine.
uh, it says that you can have like an ephah of flour as a sacrifice for a sin. Let me see if I can find it here. Leviticus 5.
Yeah, I think that's probably correct, because there's
There we are. Yeah, if a person incurs guilt when one has a public imprecation, but although able to testify, oh, hold on, I gotta do a thing. Oh gosh, puzzle piece. I'm not a robot. All right. If a person incurs guilt when one has heard a public imprecation, but parentheses, although able to testify as having either seen or learned of the matter, has not given information and thus is subject to punishment, or when a person touches any impure thing, cattle, impure stuff, being impure, person realizes guilt. When you touch an impurity, when a person utters an oath to bad or good purpose, person realizes guilt of these matters. Where are we? Let's get into the sacrifice part. Makes a sin offering. All right. He shall sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering on the side of the altar, and what remains the blood shall be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. Now that would follow a little bit of like Jesus's, sin sacrifice, right?
Yeah, it would. And actually, so that's really interesting that you make that point, because there's all sorts of different theologies on what the sacrificial value was before Jesus. I don't know. I'm not going to claim to know, and I don't think anybody who says they do know is going to be able to prove it or be correct in that matter. And honestly, I don't think it matters.
Well, I think that's why like they call Jesus like the two turtle doves, or like the doves, the two pigeons.
So
right?
Yes, they call him the sheep, or the lamb.
Well, that too, yeah.
So what I was getting at, and this is something that I've had issues with, or my Native Americans friends have had struggles with, is because if you were alive before Jesus, or if you were in some corner of the earth that didn't know about Jesus, and you lived your life and died and believed in whatever deity was around you at the time, or in the case of Native Americans, it was the creator, or for Hinduism, or for Hindus or Buddhists, are those people saved? And so there's people out there that think that the sacrifices in the Old Testament, which was where they were taking in the temple of Jerusalem, the Holy of Holies with the altar of the covenant.
Yeah, following the Levitical splatter the blood here, there, and there. Yeah.
Those held no value. They were essentially meaningless. But what they were was they were symbolisms of faith, of that they would be saved by the one sacrifice that did matter, which was Jesus. I don't know if I
How do you make
believe
that leap,
though? Well, Abraham never knew Jesus. Yeah, Abraham is saved. So there are people out there that believe that the sacrifice is.
So you're saying that anybody that had been saved even before Jesus is because of Jesus?
Yes, there are people that believe that. And then there are people that believe the opposite, that there was two covenants, and there was two covenants in either way. And again, this really doesn't matter. I don't think it matters ultimately, but the other belief is that there was two covenants, which the old covenant, we were separated from God. That's why there was a veil to the Holy of Holies, the 3-inch sheet of cloth, and only people that were anointed could go in there and atone for sins.
Right.
And Jesus died.
Yeah. And Jesus was anointed as the Mashiach, right?
He was the Messiah. He was the sacrifice, and that ushered in a new covenant where we were no longer separated from God because our sins were covered.
See, this is where like things are starting to kind of, I would need like verses and all of that, because the way I understand it, like it starts to sound like a midrash, what I was talking about earlier, which is like the rabbis, in the Talmud and in the rabbinical sense, they would come up with kind of fan fiction of the story of the Tanakh, which is the books of the Torah, which are the laws and like the 5 books of Moses, and then the Nevi'im, which is the prophets, which is where prophecies would be. Psalms were actually part of I can't think of what the name of that is, but so like back to the prophecies, it's got to be very like specific, and that's in Deuteronomy like 13. Before we get to that though, on specifics, now there is a connection, and I'm not saying that you're making this connection, but the connection is that Jesus is similar to the two turtle doves or two pigeons, Like in this version of the offering, that person shall bring an offering for that which is of one is guilty, a tenth of an ephah of a choice of flour, if they cannot suffice for those two turtle
Yep.
doves or two pigeons. So flour doesn't bleed.
No, so I think this is just my interpretation of it. And again, I haven't done my full research on this, but um, Jesus was ridiculed, or they were trying to get Jesus for eating on the Sabbath. And Jesus just turned around and he said, does not say that we are lords of the Sabbath. You are Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not here to hinder you, but to serve you. So if you're hungry, eat. Right?
Right, and
So
I would agree with that too. I would be like, yeah, screw what's been, screw these old rules.
yeah.
Uh, and I
And so
could
I think
see the like appeal of a guy like that, but at the same time, to me, like I hear like heresy, like
that's what the Pharisees heard. So, but I think that same logic is being applied in this Leviticus passage when it comes to sacrifices, saying, hey, some of you guys ain't gonna have an animal to sacrifice. Some of you guys won't have blood. So use this instead. Like whatever you got, man.
right.
Throw it up
So
there.
why blood then? Like why the blood of Jesus? Why not like
You would have to
anything?
look it up.
Obviously,
It,
like it could be anything. Like this is so like limited by poetic like structure or like almost like a human narrative structure to where like God is, I mean, and I get it, like to tell a story, I guess if you were this higher being and you wanted the, I guess, lesser beings to kind of follow along, you would have to give it some narrative structure. But like an ephah of flour, that if it can be blood or an ephah or of flour, I don't understand how like it couldn't be like a snap of a finger or just a good deed,
right.
which could be
So
like helping somebody mow the lawn.
DNA genetic makeup, I'm sure flowers have DNA as well. Most things do, right? So when it's talking
Mm-hmm.
about the blood, maybe there is some type of like DNA in something that you
Mm.
things that you ingest. I don't know. I really don't. Um, but that's kind of like the parallel that I'm coming to, is that they're both things that you would ingest. Um, Blood of the animal, the flower, so um
So even more than just like actual like hemoglobin, like you're saying like the actual DNA within it, like the maybe the information that could be
yes, it's
within it.
saying it's the blood that makes the creature. So if it's the blood that makes the creature, it could be the DNA in the food or in the flour that you eat as well. Um,
Hmm.
those are the only two like parallels that I'm drawing between the things that are saying you could offer for sacrifice. Um,
It's a reach. It's a reach, but I like it. I
but
like it. I'm
what I'm
hearing
getting
things I've
at
never heard before.
is two things. Luckily for us, it really doesn't matter because that covenant is dead. You don't see anybody sacrificing things today. Well, I shouldn't say you don't see anybody, but you won't see Orthodox Jews performing sacrifices, and there's a reason for that. Um, but I don't think the sacrifices
Yeah, the
matter
reason
at all.
because the temple was destroyed.
Yeah, the reason Jews don't sacrifice anymore is because the temple was destroyed.
Yeah,
Not
and
even
the
three, not even
rabbinical.
3 years,
Yeah.
or within like 70 years of Jesus dying. Um, so and that whole thing, the Ark of the Covenant's gone. Or I don't know. You can get into conspiracies on that, but um,
I'm not sure it ever existed, honestly. It may be in like some like again, like the way I look at it is maybe in some like archetypical form. Maybe there was like a Pandora's box, or like some special religious relic that was either passed down through generations and generations. Maybe there had been iterations of it like created,
yeah,
but as
it
far as
was
like a
probably just
box
some
that holds
highly
good,
ordained thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, I mean, it could have been something of just straight up human value and no spiritual value.
yeah,
Um,
and like honestly, what is gold? Really, other than
exactly. Well,
shiny metal.
People think a lot of crazy things about that. I mean, there's a lot of crazy ideas about what exactly is the profound like value of gold and if it's spiritual or non-spiritual. Um, I have
Yeah,
no idea.
it's an interesting
I
thing. I think about it a lot,
yeah.
actually,
Oh,
especially like with economy and things.
yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know, but um, I guess I'm sorry for this. We're kind of going on to little um like
Well,
side points and stuff, but um the I'm gonna have to wrap it up because I got to get going soon. But
okay.
the main
One
the
last
main
question then is that it says that, like the law, like the Levitical law will be followed forever, though. So, like, they should be still sacrificing. Like,
um
Jesus fulfilling, as people say, like a sacrifice is not like fulfilling like this like
um
sin offering that is needed every like forever
yeah,
to like keep God
absolutely,
going.
absolutely. Jesus is the sacrifice. He is.
But like
Um,
I don't like that doesn't follow, right? Like
well,
if God is Jesus in himself and says like this will be forever, and then sorry, I was trying to find it, but it's going to take me a second to find it.
Jesus said, this is all non-verbatim, but he said, "I did not come to abolish the law, but I came to fulfill the law."
Yeah, he did not come to abolish the law. Correct. A law can be abolished, like an abolitionist would abolish, like the law first. Like you can have slaves. Uh,
Hmm.
Now a law cannot be fulfilled, though. Like that's in reference to what Jesus says in the first sentence in Matthew, which by the way, I don't think like Matthew's really got too much weight behind it, but that's another thing too. But he says in the books of the prophets and the law, and if you look at it, it's got capital letters. And he's referring to the law or the Torah, and then the prophets, the Nevi'im, which would make up the Tanakh, minus like
Um,
some inter book stuff. But back in the day when Jesus was alive, they would refer to the Old Testament as the two books, the law
yeah,
and
and
the prophets.
Jesus didn't dispute this either. They all kind of agreed on the passages of the text before them, the Old Testament. That's actually why the NIV Bible is composed of the books that it's composed of, because those were the books that the Pharisees as well as Jesus were studying in their time. The Apocrypha is included in a lot of Catholic churches, was not books that were being studied by Jesus nor the Pharisees at that time.
Well, there's a
So,
few like Enoch
yep.
that is meant like it's actually they're mentioned. Uh, let's see though. I just wanted to find the verse that talked about the law and how it is forever. Because I mean, even Jesus says, the law is
Yeah.
forever. Actually, like right after the "I did not come to
Yeah.
abolish the law," and like
I,
not
I
one jot or tittle.
I'd love to get into that too, because he also says that he written the law on our hearts, that he sealed us.
Right,
Um,
and then I could get into how that's actually an old, even older than Christian, like form of divination, where they would cut out hearts of things they would sacrifice, and then they would read the like entrails,
mhm.
and that's where they would see like things like God, or like
Yeah,
love is written on the heart.
there's all sorts of um, strange um, paradoxes between things that are holy and things that are perverted. The Abraham sacrificing his son Isaac, who was probably a grown man at the time, was kind of it was not only like a foreshadowing as to God's sacrifice of Jesus, but it was also drawing parallels to the other deities that were worshipped at that time, who did condone and practice in child sacrifice. They were totally cool with it. So they're taking something that was good and holy and they were perverting it. They were taking, human lives, like let's give them up. So um just the
Interesting.
same thing with the law being written on our hearts. People rip your heart open and take those things and pervert them. I, I
Interesting.
It's more common than you would think. You take something that's good and holy, and there's many ways to pervert those things.
Well, no,
Um,
and I'm not trying to. I guess like the goal wasn't like a perversion. I'm just trying to say like it's a term of phrase that was taken from this ancient uh,
oh, I see what
like
you're saying. Like,
divination technique, and it was just a phrase that was used back then, where people now have kind of a different meaning,
hmm,
but it's still kind of the same. But at that moment, you know, we'll agree on that. And you know what? Actually, I do have to close out because I want to get everybody over to Joyful. But
yeah,
sir, I actually really give you one a big, like, huge commendation for the discussion. I really did appreciate it. You were super
yeah.
respectful, and I think that like we could sit and talk about these kind of things for a long time. I like don't want to ruin anybody's like I might be wrong. That's why like this is good faith on my end. Like and you're making better points than most people I've ever discussed this with. Uh
Well, I
so
appreciate it, and
so
at
yeah.
the end of the day, I think we're all kind of in this together, exploring things, looking for the right answers, and so,
Right.
um, I would just encourage anybody who's oriented towards their faith, not to make arguments for it that they can't stand on. So, like
That's a
if
very
I'm wrong
good
about
that's
stuff,
good advice.
I would rather be wrong and humble than stick to my pride and become argumentative or defensive. There's just no point in that. It doesn't do any good for me or the person I'm talking with. But
Right.
to follow that up, the big thing that I would say is we have to focus on objective things that we can use to define our terms, right? Or the things that are important. The biggest one for me is Jesus. We can talk about everything else, but with anybody who's Christian, the centerfold is Jesus. If that's not right, I'll throw the rest of the Bible away. It does not bother
Oh,
me.
we got to have a second conversation. We got to have a second
Uh,
conversation just about Jesus like and just kind of where my whole like concept of Jesus comes from, I guess, from all my understanding through talking to other people, watching everything, reading everything, even listening in on like crazy people like discussing it who probably don't have any idea about it, like Richard Carrier, but still like it's very interesting. Uh, and he makes some good points. Uh, but yeah, we'll have to talk about that sometime. So yeah,
yeah,
come back around. I'll try and go live more. Usually like Mondays and Thursdays work out for me. But without all that being said, guys, go over to JA Debates. It's starting up right now. Go over to JA Debates on YouTube and on TikTok and join up. There's going to be more of a conversation going on there. Thank you, Hannibal. You were a great guest. And yeah, hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit and getting into a very deep conversation. There's a few things, I just didn't want to like get too deep into it because I kind of liked where the conversation was going. To where, I could say like, oh, did Jesus even exist? Like if we go by an empirical standpoint, is Jesus an archetype of other older kind of like Messiah like figures? Does Jesus fit within the Messiah template given by the Jewish people? There's a number of things that we could get into. So maybe it'll just have to be another discussion. But in the meantime, go over to JA Debates. You guys are the best. Peace, love, and hip hop.